Hey everyone. So, now we are going to cover how a bill becomes a law. So, it used to be in your American government classes in high school, teacher would play a Schoolhouse Rock, this very old cartoon. There'd be a bill, he'd be sitting on Capitol Hill, he'd be just a bill, and that's how you'd learn how bills become a law. I don't think I can get away with you just showing you that video and saying that I taught you guys this. So we'll go through this a bit more in depth in this lecture. So the first thing about making laws is it's very difficult. It's very easy to block bills from becoming laws. And when you have political parties with rival interests and with a very kind of hostile attitude towards each other, you see a lot of gridlock. And this is part of what makes Congress so frustrating to many people is there are popular bills that are waiting to move forward and they simply don't. Only about 6% of all bills which are introduced turn into laws. So, how does this happen? We're going to go through a few charts that are pretty complicated, but really it's just this. First, a bill is introduced. It can be introduced by a individual congressperson. It can be introduced usually in the Congress, sometimes in the Senate. And then there's committee action. People get together, they talk about it, and then there's floor action. People debate about it, and then there's conference committee action in which the bill is ratified by the House and Senate and it's sent to the president, who can either veto it or the president can pocket veto it. We'll talk more about the pocket veto when we talk about the presidency. So, let's see. Both the House and the Senate can be people who are can generate bills. And usually they do. Something very strange happens here, in which both the House and the Senate produce their own version of the bills, and then they actually have to get together, they have to reconcile their differences, they have to negotiate, and then it's taken back to both chambers where they're voted on. You can see the House has a few more steps. So, in this committee, in both bodies, it's referred to committees made up of House members and Senate members who tend to be experts on whatever issue the bill is about. So, then it's referred to subcommittees for hearings and markups. This is where people debate it when they change it. Marking up is like editing. Committee action. In the House, it has to go through the Rules Committee, but to the Senate, it goes straight to the floor. And then once the Senate decides what it wants to do, whether it moves forward or not, the House and the Senate have to reconcile their differences. Then they have to vote to approve it in both chambers. It's sent to the president who signs it, and then it becomes a law. Pretty easy, right? Here is another chart. Essentially the same thing. So, differences here. Take a look at this. This is, I think, very useful because committees can either choose to act or committees can choose to not act. So a bill could move all the way through the House and the Senate can stop it right here. The opposite is true too. If both the House and the Senate don't work on something, then it simply doesn't get done. They both have to work on it. So that is a major difference I want you guys to see in that chart. And then finally, whoo! Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So here's us. There's the constituents. Look at how diverse we are. And we send our thoughts to our representatives who have offices full of staffers. The staffers take it to their senators or their representatives. And then check it out. Look at this executive branch. Executive branch, the Supreme Court, and Congress, all balancing each other out. And sometimes these two bodies can give the other body, Congress, ideas for legislation. That's often what the president does. The president lines out their agenda and Congress acts on it. So, then we go through here. You set the spending ceiling. You authorize the renewal of the bill once it becomes a bill. Authorizing committees, appropriation committees, budget committees, so many committees. This is another reason people get frustrated with Congress, right? And then finally, the two bodies resolve their differences, and then the bill is sent to the president for signatures, and you get what is in this chart represented as the NASA budget. Filibustering. This is a feature of the Senate that frustrates a lot of people. The minority party in the Senate doesn't like a bill, they can simply stop it by speaking forever. So this is part of the Senate's allowance for unlimited debate. Very famously, Ted Cruz tried to filibuster Obamacare, ultimately shut down the government by reading Dr. Seuss books, including Green Eggs and Ham. In the past, you actually had to keep talking. Now you just have to threaten it, and everything comes to a stop unless senators can vote to stop it. So all you have to do now is simply threaten to filibuster, and people believe you, and you need 60 senators to override a bill. So this prevents voting on bills. Congressional committees. Most of the work in Congress happens in these committees. This is where you hash out most of the legislative details. So, for instance, Marjorie Taylor Greene was kicked off of her committee assignments. It is not clear to me, or really anyone, what her job is then, if she cannot do the work necessary to participate in Congress. Why does Congress have committees? This allows Congress to process huge amounts of business. Essentially, think about it like breaking up into group assignments, right? Y'all may hate group projects, group assignments, but it's necessary, particularly stuff for like governing an entire country. They can screen bills so only the ones that make sense and are good make it to the floor. You have specialized role, experts, and the executive branch to stay informed about what's going on in this legislation. And then the Ways and Means Committee, this is really important. They meet with the Treasury and the executive about issues related to taxation and the budget. Types of committees. There are standing committees. These are committees that are always present. Some important ones include the Armed Forces Committee, the Committee on Veterans Affairs, the Intelligence Committee, so on and so forth. Select committees. These are temporary committees made up to address specific issues. So usually when the investigations happen, these are select or special committees, and then there are joint committees, members of both houses meeting to negotiate and facilitate legislation. So in the House, the members of committees are determined by party leaders. Usually it's determined by things like seniority, or maybe if you're a very public personality, you can make it onto a committee. And it's a good idea for Congress people to get on committees because it's a way for them to help their constituents. Rules and norms. So there's an important difference. Rules are written into law. These are things that have to happen. Norms are things that may not be written into law, but we sort of expect each other to follow them. There is no law saying that I have to wear shoes to teach at RCC. But if I came in without shoes one day, I'd be violating a norm. And many of you would probably report it to someone above me, as you should. The Senate is really less specialized and it's much less formal. There's a lot of norms governing the Senate, but there's a lot of rules governing the House. The incumbency factor. So if you have a seat in the Senate or the House, it's pretty difficult to lose it. Look at these re-election rates in both the House and the Senate. Why is this? Why is this? And again, we've got some more charts here. Percentage winning re-election. I don't know what happened here. I think this might have been the Reagan Revolution. That sounds right. Don't know what happened here. That's kind of unusual. But why do they always win? Part of it's committee structure. It has to do with who gets money, who's prominent on these committees, who becomes a better expert. It also has to do with the electoral needs of members of Congress who generally reinvest in their reelection pretty early. Official resources. Incumbents have access to greater resources, among them franking, the ability to send mail free to their constituents. Then they have salary, office, travel, staff, communications. They get a allowance of 1.2 million a year in order to fund these endeavors. So they have more money than their challengers. So Republican incumbents and Democratic incumbents tend to make more money and more fundraising than anyone who would challenge them. So, what else do we want to say? And this is just some review. Let's come down to this bit about political parties. Political parties now more than ever are very, very strong in Congress. And we've reached this point where Republicans and Democrats don't want to work with each other. And there are good reasons for not wanting to work for each other, with each other. If you have beliefs that you are unwilling to compromise on, then that is both a good thing, but it also means that you're going to accomplish a lot less here. So they organize their business around party lines. The majority of parties picks the leader of the House, and parties also commit or pick committee assignments. Party voting in Congress. So party voting is generally the best indicator of how you can expect someone to vote. Default position, usually members vote the way their party wants. And partisanship is increasing. There are these changing regional bases, nationwide partisan conflict on the rise. And again, I want you guys to keep asking yourself why. Why is it that people aren't just tired of sending people who fight, who go on talk radio, who just try to appear on television as much as possible instead of doing the work involved? Why is this happening? And here is just some graphs on party voting. You see here that the majority of both the House and the Senate tend to vote most of the time according to party lines. The Senate tends to vote according to party lines a little less than the House. Senators have a bit more room, a bit more wiggle room. We saw that in the second impeachment trial. House members tend to get in line with what their party wants. This is the most important role of Congress in terms of check and balance, is to keep an eye on the executive branch. They can launch investigations into the executive branch, and they can also kick off impeachment proceedings. So here are some key terms from these videos. Thank you all for watching this video with me, and I look forward to discussing this in person.